Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the Russian-Ukrainian war. Now, if you were to look at other content providers closely monitoring the conflict, most of those robustly support the Ukrainians. And again, if you were to watch some of those content providers today, they claim there has not been a lot of changes on the battlefield, and there's just not a lot to talk about, which is partly correct. Now, I guess it depends on where you set on the equation. Where do you set? Do you set on the Russian sphere, or do you set on the Ukrainian sphere? And it's very, very apparent, as we had talked about yesterday, that the Ukrainian counteroffensive, the limited counteroffensive, not the big one that everyone was looking for, but the concession prize, the idea that the Ukrainians could push the Russians back in and around Bakhmut has not happened. Again, the I call it the battle for the fields, the battle for the sunflower fields is continuing. Again, these are not major terrain features. These are simply open fields measured in hundreds of meters. No major towns have been taken by the Ukrainians. No major roadways have been taken by the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are not threatening to regain control of Bakhmut. It's actually completely contrary to that objective. The Russians still maintain control of Bakhmut, and the Russians continue to take control of the urban areas, the last vestiges of the Ukrainian defense network, which is in the far west of the city. And the Russians continue to hammer away at those Ukrainian forces. But the big event that's happened over the last 24 hours was the massive airstrike and cruise missile attack and drone strike that has occurred against targets throughout Ukraine. And it goes back to what I was saying in the earlier video, where it is very difficult, incredibly challenging to get accurate information from the Ukrainians. You would think that again, as I talked about before, the Ukrainians talk about being this transparent Western democracy that wants to join the European Union, is allied with the United States, is allied with the so-called Western world. Now, there's a problem with that. They are not transparent. They release very little information, and if you were to discuss information that's happening on the ground in Ukraine, you could get arrested. And more importantly, again, over the last 24 hours, there have been a series of Russian airstrikes, Russian cruise missile strikes, Russian Dagger hypersonic missile strikes against targets in Kiev. And the Ukrainian response, again, very interesting, that the Ukrainians are claiming they have shot down 100% of all missiles that were inbound towards Kiev. Now, they've quoted a variety of numbers ranging from cruise missiles to hypersonic missiles to drones. And the Ukrainians categorically claim they have shot down every single missile that was fired at Kiev. Essentially, Kiev was not hit with any Russian missile system. The Ukrainians report on no casualties. They report on no targets struck whatsoever. Now, we do have video footage that would indicate that targets were hit. Targets were effectively hit both in Kiev and in other parts of the country as well, especially in this area. And I can try to zoom in here and find the arms depot. There it is, right there. So this satellite image has completely changed because this arms depot is no longer exists. It was completely destroyed by Russian cruise missile strikes over the last 48 hours. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. And again, some would say that the targets the Russians were going after were depleted uranium, 25 millimeter, 120 millimeter tank rounds, Bradley armored fighting vehicle rounds that were being stored at this locale. Now, we don't know that, and quite frankly, I don't buy that. I don't believe that. I don't know why the Ukrainians would move newly acquired Western munitions into this very ripe target that sits to the northwest of this town. And I'm not even going to try to butcher that, unfortunately. If someone wants to chime in and name that, great. Not going to do it. But again, I don't see any reason why the Ukrainians would move newly acquired Western munitions into this target. Doesn't make any sense. They would move it to other places that could be concealed that doesn't look like an arms depot. Now it's still possible. Maybe they did, and the Russians got wind of it and went after it. But it's gone. It's destroyed completely and utterly. And it was there's video evidence of the attack on this facility, and it's just been completely wiped out. It looks like a small, low-yield tactical nuclear bomb went off in this locale. But nonetheless, there was ordnance there, and those ordnance are, in all probability, no longer there because the Russians blew it up. But again, as we have seen this very focused and intense series of strikes by the Russians over the last 24 hours, the Ukrainians simply state that they shot all the missiles down. That's a pretty effective weapon system. I mean, if whatever they're using, Patriots, S-300s, are they using other surface-to-air weapon systems to achieve a 100% shoot-down rate against a multitude of categories of air-to-ground ordnance, ranging from small drones to cruise missiles to hypersonic weapon systems. It's a pretty remarkable kill ratio that exceeds any known kill ratio of any war that has ever been fought. So again, the Ukrainians are claiming they've shot down 100% of all Russian missiles that were inbound towards Kiev. All of them. Not one got through. Well, take it as you wish. I don't. I don't buy it. So, again, that's what the Ukrainians are reporting. And again, very difficult to really get any sort of information in this conflict because of that sort of reporting. That lack of transparency, that lack of any form of reporting integrity that exists has just disappeared. Everything is based on, well, it's designed to create a false narrative, a narrative that one side is winning and one side is absolutely losing. And there's no in between. So that's kind of where we set for today. No changes in Bakhmut. Very limited success by the Ukrainian side, where the heavy fighting is occurring, where it matters in Bakhmut. Again, you can see here this was new over the last. Let's just look here. You can see several apartment buildings all the way to this street was secured by the Russians. And again, this is a Ukrainian site that's reporting this. And then again, in these outlying areas, the status is essentially the same. So I don't think the Ukrainians met some of these early objectives that they were trying to do, namely position themselves where they could strike north and south towards Bakhmut in some sort of a counterattack, some sort of double enveloping operation. And it just hasn't worked out so far. But that's where we sit today. More to come very, very soon. Thank you for joining us. Have a good day.